So here we are, still on Saturday, the 26th of March, and we're at the Australian Labyrinth gathering and Labyrinth Network gathering. And we've got Max Greive with us, and he's actually beaming in from Fosterton Retreat Space in northern New South, well, not quite northern New South Wales, but central New South Wales. Oh gosh, I'm terrible with that. But
the Hunter Valley.
The Hunter Valley, even better. And yeah, love to hear what you've got to say, Max. And yeah, please take it away.
Okay, thank you, Joy, and welcome, and thank you for tuning in. I've actually had to go into Dungog because the reception at our place is abysmal. We've had over 35 mils in the last day. So the bridge has gone under, so I had to take the alternate route into town. But we have got reasonably good internet here. So I work 2 days a week as a youth and family worker with the community centre here, primarily in schools. And previously to that, I've done about 13 years of working primarily with men, and that's what encouraged me to put this little session together. So my job at that time was working with distressed, distraught men. And usually the window for men to put up their hand and say, I need help, is the window only opens for a very short time. So at that NGO, we made sure that we would make contact within a day of people making a referral, and we would try to meet with, or I would try to meet with them as quick as possible, because they move on, don't they? The crisis is over pretty quick, and there's a new other thing happening. I'll give a bit of an intro to me. I came across the Labyrinth 20-something years ago. It was a group of us, and we made our own, and we painted a 6-metre square canvas with a pretty rough design. I still use it. I don't like it, but it still works, which is the amazing thing about Labyrinths. But I don't need to tell you that, do I? Because you're all, you all know that Labyrinths do something. When we put that one together, one of our members, who had helped paint the lines on, she said, so what's the idea? I said, well, you start here, just get yourself ready. You walk in, you twist and turn, eventually you'll get to the middle. And we had some, we had some guided questions. She said, oh, they'll take about 5 minutes. An hour and a half later, she is still sobbing in the middle of that labyrinth, dealing with big stuff. And I thought, like, I had a good experience. I had a nice walk, She had a profound experience. And I'm thinking, what is that? So anyway, so that was my first contact with the Labyrinth, and I've used them forever more. I did training with Redditus at SHA in, must be 2009, to be a facilitator, and just fell more and more in love with it. I had started using it. My wife and I, we were running a community centre in Mayfield at Newcastle, and but we had done it generally quite privately. We had used it, benefited from it, etc. My first experience of using it with somebody else, I was closing at the end of a busy day, and usually my job as a manager was to count all the money, which was probably about $20 odd that came in, and finish off for the day. 2 minutes before I closed the door, in comes a man. He says, I need help. I said, all right. He says, I'm homeless, I'm suicidal, my life's a mess, can you help me? And I'm thinking, oh, gee, sure. sure we can. I said, look, I've just got administrative jobs to do first. So how about, because I had our 6-metre canvas upstairs, I said, how about you just walk a labyrinth while I, take 15 minutes to do my job, and then I'll catch up with you and we'll do some other stuff. So anyway, so I took him upstairs. I showed him the design. I said, this is it. You walk, you take a step from the beginning here, you twist and turn, you'll get to the middle. And I'm thinking, we'll see how it goes. I go down, count up all the money. It came up to $26 that day. Big day of takings. Finished it all off. He came downstairs and I said, oh, well, how was that? Now here's a distressed, homeless, suicidal bloke. And he says, it was fantastic. And I go, what? Because, taking the piss. Anyway, I'm thinking, well, show me what happened. So anyway, we went upstairs and he says, I started walking this and I got to within, one step of the centre. And he says, this is stupid. All I have to do is step over the line, get it over and done with. And I said, yeah. And he said, and then I said to myself, that's what I always do. I said, what? He says, I always take the easy road out. I said, do you? He said, yeah. I said, so what does that mean? He said, well, I have to not take the easy road. I have to take the hard road. And I said, okay. So what happened? He said, so I continued the path and I walked around and got to the middle. I said, okay, tell me more. He says, well, this is what I have to do. The hard yards is this. I have to go to detox. I have to go to rehab. I have to go. He had a whole list of things that this one man, suicidal, depressed and distressed, had sorted out left-hand side, right-hand side to himself and worked out his own path. He didn't need anyone's help. He just needed a labyrinth to give time to slow down and, be brave enough to work out his own walk. That was such an insight into the magic of, I know it's not magical, but, something happens, doesn't it? That's so true. After that, after my time at the community centre, I took labyrinths with me, didn't I? Because, they're just, I make it, I make wooden ones. I make them on the beach. I put them in, spray them into the lawn, wherever. I ended up at an NGO, primarily working with men. And again, labyrinths had been my private kind of thing, and I hadn't really used it much for other people. But I remember, let me backtrack a bit. I'm also a choice theorist, okay? So choice theory believes that all our behaviours, all our actions are trying to meet our needs. We have 5 basic needs. There's a need for fun, which involves learning. It's usually our hobbies. Possibly one of my hobbies is carving wood, making labyrinths, that kind of stuff. Generally, when we do the fun thing, it makes us feel better. So it's kind of a self-care tool. In choice theory, Glasser came up with the basic idea that survival is, a key need, sure. But he said, more importantly, is the love and belonging. So I'm going to ask you in a few minutes and hold me to it. Actually, why don't we do that right now? I'm going to ask you, write down on a piece of paper people you like to spend time with. All right? It's not people you have to, but people that you enjoy spending time with. Okay. And the list could go on, couldn't it? Because I remember going to the conference a few years ago, and how fun it is to hang around with people who love labyrinths. I know we're all a little odd, and that, I fit in perfectly then, but my heart beats faster. Like, here are people that share similar common goals. How lovely is that? There's also something about the list of people that you've written, that they would be people that love you unconditionally. Is that true? If you were to call them at 3 o'clock in the morning, they might grumpily answer, yeah, what do you want? And then they hear who it is, and they say, oh, do you want to come in? Can I do something for you? Whatever. We need to spend time with people that love us, don't we? It's just good manure, good fertilizer. Going back to the fun question, what do we do? Things you do when you don't have to do anything is a fun question. That's usually the first thing that goes out the window when your life gets crazy and busy. Isn't that true? Our self-care, our self-nurture usually goes out the window, and for some reason we get, a bit wobbly in our world. So going back to our man who's distressed and depressed, etc., some of his needs aren't being met. That is why his life is, a bit wobbly. That's why he needs help, etc. So back to choice theory, we say we have 5 basic needs. If these needs aren't being met, our life gets derailed. One of our wheels gets a bit deflated and we start having the wobbly ride. Apart from needs, we also have wants. Now, Glasser and I'll just refer to him a bit, but he says that in our head, we have 100,000 pictures of what the good life looks like. So if I was to ask you, well, let's go back to the love and belonging. Which people do you want to spend time with? They are part of your quality world. You want to have connection with those people. Generally, they will include kids. They will also include, here's hoping, I shouldn't jump there. You would hopefully assume your spouse, your partner is part of that quality world as well, if they love you unconditionally, right? As you are. What a nice gift that is. So in the quality world, we also have then things we want to own and things we want to experience. Now, I often dress up as a pirate. I'm the president of an arts market in Newcastle, and there's about 100 artists, and we get together and we sell stuff. I sell labyrinths, because they're good. And after making lots, which were good for my therapy and well-being, what do you do with a pile of 30 or 40 finger labyrinths? Well, you've got to move them on, don't you? Imagine making money from something you like doing. So anyway, I do that. I dress like a pirate. Why? Well, it's a novelty, but also I help people find their treasure. In our head, we have a treasure chest. Well, that's our head. But inside that treasure chest are all the pictures of the good life. And if I was to ask you, it would involve places to go, holidays, things you want to own. Most people want to own a house, I guess. Some of the blokes I'm working with currently, a motorbike is pretty high in their agendas at the moment still. So we've got people we want to spend time with, things we want to own, things we want to experience. And the 4th part of that bit is the kind of person you want to be. All right. And Steve Covey, with the 7 successful habits of the 7 habits of the successful person, he suggests, and I've just grabbed it from him, to write the eulogy you want said at your funeral. I'm not probably giving you anything new. I've yet to meet anyone who doesn't want to be remembered as a good person. So when I'm working with men, distressed, depressed, whatever, I say, all right, imagine, in 20 years, 50 years time, you die. Oh, that's depressing. I said, well, it's going to happen. I can't keep you alive forever. But what do you want your kids? What do you want your colleagues? What do you want, important people in your world to say at your funeral? As I said, no one has ever come up with, I want to be remembered as a horrible person. So when I'm working with men, this is one of the points that I get them first to work out that their kids are important. They're part of their treasure chest. And let me just take one other step back. Generally, working with dads and distressed men, their kids are their key. That is the thing that grounds them. Their partners generally aren't in that picture as much as their kids. So, I concentrate on this. I say, what do you want your kids, your boys to say at your funeral? And for most of, and for a lot of the dads, I would say there's their homework, and they wouldn't pass the course or group or whatever we did if they hadn't done it. Well, that's coercion, really. But anyway, it worked. Usually they would write one line, he was a good dad. I said, can you expand a bit more? What does a good dad do? So anyway, sometimes I was working with virtually illiterate people, but the pictures in their head of being a good dad, we could unpick, and it was generally someone who spent time, enthused, encouraged, loved their kids. They are the keys, okay? So yeah. So my first time I used the Labyrinth in the welfare sector as a men's worker, I would start the session with, hey, in 40 minutes time, 50 minutes time, you're going to leave this room. What do you want to leave with? Again, I'm joining into their quality world. They want something from me. I have a magic wand, but the batteries are really flat. So, I can't guarantee that I can wave it and make it all happen. But they have a picture. And if I can get them to articulate that, that makes the session move along a lot quicker. Most of them want, something that is attainable. This particular day, I'm dealing with a dad who's very distressed. And after about 15 minutes, he was all over the shop, and I was just trying to pin one thing down. And I said, hold on, in 30 minutes time, you're going to walk out of here. What do you want? Tell us what you want, what you really, really want. Maybe the Spice Girls were choice theorists there. If you can clarify what you want, it makes it a lot easier for the hunting and treasure looking. So anyway, he took a breath, and that jumbled mind, he said, I want some clarity. I go, wow. All right. And I had made for my workplace, they had celebrated the 40th anniversary. I had made for the workplace a large finger labyrinth. It's, 2 to 3 foot square. It was quite heavy. And when he said clarity, I thought, I know just the right thing. So I drag it in, put it against the table on the wall. And I said, hey, run your finger from the start, from outside the circle, twist and turn, I'll come back in 5 minutes. So I left him with it, a bit of time and space, and I went and had a coffee. Actually, I came back probably 10 minutes later. But again, surprise, surprise, he had spoken and worked out what he needed to do all by himself, just with the help of a labyrinth. Sure, it was pretty, and I think having it against the wall, running your finger up, that had some profound insights too. And again, I'm preaching to the converted. The twists, the 360-degree turns, the U-turns, they do something, don't they? Nod, just nod. Yeah. So just having a labyrinth in the workplace was helpful, giving him 5 minutes to slow himself down. And again, that a muddy puddle of a mind, given time, settles and becomes clear again. I sprout all those things that I've heard and learnt from you guys and others over the years, and I find it still works amazing. Where else do I use them? One of the nicest things, I could run some mindfulness and staying calm workshops for parents, etc. And this particular day, because I've been influenced by the book The Labyrinth and the Enneagram by these ones. What's the name? That one. I'm at 9 in the Enneagram, so I use some of those exercises prior, and I get the dads and the mums to write on a piece of paper one of their kids' names, and to hold it and to draw around it and make some symbolic connection with that kid. And then I get them to walk the labyrinth carrying their kid in their hand. That is so fun, because all of a sudden it's not about them. This is about them and their kid, but more so getting the eyes of their kid in the walk. How profound? Amazing. Again, just, that's a nice, simple trick. I also get them, well, come back, tell us a story, and then come and take another child and do that walk as well. I did work for a feminist organisation, so I would always try to improve relationships, because for their kids' sake, they needed their mum not to be called, certain names, but to be called mum, to be given some respect. So I would try and then, with mixed results, I must admit, to write their partner's name or the mother of their children's name on the piece of paper and to carry it and walk it through with the labyrinth. And again, the twisting and the turning, and they learn somewhere where they've got to improve some of their behaviours, and they get some insights into the other important person, the other important love and belonging person in their kids' lives. Focusing on their kids is the goal. That's the master stroke. The labyrinth is just a great tool for helping make that happen as well. I could tell some other stories, but there you go. That's some of my things that, I don't know if you've got a labyrinth that you want to work carrying a piece of paper on. I could give you 5 minutes to do that and have a practice. Is that all right, Joy? Yep. All right. Thanks, Joy.
Sounds like a great idea.
All right.
So give us some instructions, Max. We just write the name on the paper.
Yeah, write it on a piece of paper. Sticky notes are pretty helpful, If you want to decorate the piece of paper to make it more so the love and belonging, or your child's name, or your partner, do that. Before you enter the circle, the path, take a moment just to focus and concentrate, maybe on the last interaction you had with them. Do you want to use if you're using the finger one, a handheld labyrinth, do you want to use your non-dominant hand? Sure, it is helpful. this could be the longest quiet of a workshop ever. Could go for hours. Hey, look, I appreciate that, time is of essence. 15 minutes time, Mount Carmel, you've got to go and get some lunch. Don't want you starving. Hey, look, I don't know if anybody wants to share something, if anything. You could say, oh, nothing happened. I remember, because at the art bazaars, I usually spray a labyrinth in the grass, and that's usually for the kids to be entertained while the parents are spending money. And it's a good advert for my labyrinths too. But this woman comes up, to me, she says, well, that was a waste of time. I go, was it? Tell me more. She says, all I got was a sense of peace. And I go, oh, I'm sorry that you think that's a waste of time. But yeah, hey, there's no guarantee that you're going to have a mystical experience, are you, every time you walk or whatever. But what a nice gift. Imagine getting a sense of peace. Has anybody got something that they want to share? Joy?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I realized that I have not ever taken a person with me into the labyrinth. I've prayed before I step into the labyrinth, or I've, thought about them when I'm in the center, but I've never carried a person in mind who I love with me. And I took my son with me, and we're having difficulties at the moment because he's 15 and I'm not. Oh dear, dear, dear. And anyway, this is what I wrote. I can't carry him all the way, and yet I do. The path is jagged and rough, with jerks and starts. Why? It was smooth earlier today. Same labyrinth. Same labyrinth.
Look at that.
And my finger was bumping and not going smoothly, and it made horrid scratching noises. I thought, oh, gee, that's interesting. And then I realized I reached the center, and what I did, because I'd been carrying him in this hand and this was tracing, I pinned him down in the center. You will not get away from this. You will not elude me. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. So I don't know where to go with that. But thank you.
Hey, that's all right. Thank you, Joy. Take note. Yeah, fantastic.
I have. Thank you.
Anyone else? There's no pressure. You could say, I just got a profound sense of a splinter. Louise, are you trying to get on?
Here comes Chris.
No, but I can.
Oh,
Whatever made you think I was trying to get on? I was just
your head was closer, that's all.
I was just typing a message to Joy, encouraging her.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
but,
Chris would
no,
like
but look, but I will share. I couldn't find a piece of paper quickly, well, not a bit that I wanted to use, so I wrote my daughter's name on my hand.
Oh, nice.
And I went. I've got a 3-circuit labyrinth laid out in my little tiny baby courtyard. So I walked, and like Joy, I have never ever walked so closely with somebody, and I basically had her whole life roll like a newsreel through me.
Oh.
And by the time I reached the centre, I'd highlighted that she's going through a few personal struggles at the moment, just with work and where she wants to be career-wise, I guess. And so I held that while I was in the centre. And yeah, it was nice just to walk out with that sense of holding her while she works through this little struggle that she has.
Yeah. Thanks, Louise.
It's a great strategy. I never thought of it before. So thank you.
Hey, that's all right. Nice to share ideas. Anyone other?
Chris in Mount Carmel.
Sounds off. Can't hear you.
Unmute.
Unmute.
Is that
Yeah.
better?
Yeah.
So thanks so much, Max. Hi, Max. It's been a fantastic, it's just a great presentation. Thank you. And really have enjoyed this process. Like the others, I too have not carried any of my children's story into the labyrinth with me. Yeah. And oh, you can't see it. Anyway, on my canvas finger labyrinth here, I carried my daughter with all her health issues that have been dogging her for nearly a decade. She's only 34. Through the twists and turns of various struggles, and it was quite profound because the emotional relationship and connection with her was really rough for a while, and she was quite angry with me. And I noticed, the reason I'm holding this is because I was in this quadrant. Yeah. The fire, no, it's back to front, fire quadrant from Tony last night, where the anger was like really present. And then, anyway, I won't go through the whole thing, but I found myself in the centre and knowing that her mum, me, has actually held her for all my faults as a parent, all my not knowing how to do parenting, no way of understanding what she needed, because the diagnosis is very hard to make, and such gratitude that we have found a point of love and mutual support in the centre. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'll tell a story from let's see, must have been about 2009. We were getting prepared. I was turning 50. You know I don't look like 62, but I am. Sure. We were preparing for we were doing one of those life trips around the world. We had lots of things organised and booked. At Christmas time, our youngest one tells us that she's pregnant. That's exciting. So we say, all right, well, we'll change our plans and we'll come back within a week of the baby being born, etc., etc. So we could adjust that. That's doable. Coming back from Europe, and then we'll come back to Australia, then we'll go to Asia. What a fun, I'm well resourced, all right? So could do that. A month later, her bloke, the father of this child, is diagnosed with throat cancer. He's 25. His dad had died when he was about 14. So, there was a bit of angst in all of that. All our planning and getting ready to travel, all of a sudden it gets thrown out. Well, one of the reasons is that when I married Bronnie 37 years ago, she was a widow. Her bloke had died in a work accident when her second boy was 7 weeks old. And she wasn't too keen to leave our youngest to possibly become a widow. So she said, should we travel? Should we put it on hold and just wait until everything's sorted and we see if he's, going to survive, etc. And at that time, again, pull out the trusty soothsaying labyrinth. So we rolled it out and we walked it, and I carried son-in-law in my hand. And look, I'm a God person, all right? So, I use the labyrinth as a prayer tool quite often. I just moan and groan to God, and sometimes he comforts me and whatever. Anyway, I walked in with son-in-law and the current crisis at that time. And as I was walking in, carrying it, I could feel the weight on my shoulders, And then as I started walking out into the outer rings, this profound, it could be wishful thinking, couldn't it? But anyway, there was this voice that just said, hey, Max, he's my boy. Yeah, you're going to have to just trust me to hold him. Now, was that what I wanted to hear because I wanted to travel around the world? Well, I don't think so. I'm not sure. But, when I told my oldest son, he says, oh, wishful thinking, old man, you just want to keep traveling. I said, well, I was prepared to put it on hold. But that was amazing, that time. It was very specific. And I've gone back to that over the last, 13 years, just as a reminder that, hey, God's got this boy, this man in hand as well. So that's, I wasn't going to tell that story, but anyway, that was one, that was one of those moments of carrying another person as well. So yeah. You're on mute, Chris.
Thanks so much for telling that story, Max. And I'm sorry this timing is not great, but some of us are going to have to honour our guest, our host, and are going to get lunch. But I think I speak for all of us here at Mount Carmel, and some of them will stay on with you. But thank you so much for today. I'm really, really touched and moved by your work, and wish you all the very best.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just give a plug for our place. We have 3 walking labyrinths on our property. So we have a Cretan, I used to call them Cretan, but a 3-circuit. We have a sharp-based one, and then we have a wild labyrinth in amongst the trees and the woods. And it started with me collecting 3 rocks a week. We'd found this, I'd made some paths through, we have 100 acres, and I'd made some paths following wallabies. And then we came across this beautiful, it's not even, but beautiful space with lots of ironbark trees in it. Lots of birds around it. At that time, we had a lot of lantana too. I still have 60 acres of lantana, so if you ever want to come and give me a hand, you're most welcome. But in that one, 3 rocks a week, I just added to it. And obviously, I used the rocks nearby, didn't I? And then after about a year, I have to go further, and my back, I've got disintegrating disc, so that's not helping. And I'm trying to roll these rocks along and make this path. After about a year, I showed it to my wife, who's doing a PhD. And I said, look what I've done. It's a surprise. And, she had noticed the collection of rocks. And it goes around trees and it goes up hills, and it is totally wild. It has no form or fashion, really. But somehow, again, it just works its magic. She uses that as a reminder for her PhD that you only have to keep turning up each week and do a little bit. You don't have to do it all in one go. So our labyrinth's amazing. Oh yeah, how I wrote an article for the Catholics that they're not mazes, but they are amazing. And that's so true. My experience and passing it on. So we Airbnb our place, and I just encourage people to walk a labyrinth. There are also carved labyrinths in tables in their cabins, etc. They can't escape them. I just make labyrinths everywhere. But again, this is people that would generally not go looking for that experience. And again, they've had some nice, warm, encouraging, positive things happen to them. I think, what a nice gift to give to a hurting world. So yeah. So anyway, so that's some of my inspiration. I'm open. It's 1 o'clock, so we've got a few minutes left if you haven't gone for lunch. But if you've got some questions or other insights, or you could give me some ideas too, because I am not the fount of all knowledge. I'm just someone who enjoys helping other people. I use them in my youth work. So I work at schools with traumatized kids, and usually the first exercise we do is run the finger along the handheld labyrinth, just to center them. And it's so fun watching that, and watching the teachers actually enjoy it and say, oh, I need one in my classroom, etc. So, I don't always make lots of money off them, but, I am spreading labyrinths all around the place.
Yeah.
Can't help it.
Louise has a question.
Yep. Louise.
Yes. Oh, Max, you're the best. Hey, I just want to go back to the story you shared about the man you left with. You said that you pushed the labyrinth into the room up against the wall.
Yep.
And I just wanted to clarify, was that like a tabletop labyrinth or was it a wall labyrinth? Because you used your arm to describe it.
Yes. Well, it was a portable one, but pretty heavy. So I leant it against the wall because, so he didn't have to, so he could do it standing up. So,
okay. So he was basically facing the wall and.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to hear that because I've actually painted one on my wall and I really enjoy the difference between that and walking and finger labyrinth walking. So I'm actually using a Tai Chi movement.
Oh, yeah.
As I walk it.
Yeah.
And it's, again, there's a shift and there's a difference and there's a change in, it reminds me of the labyrinths in the London Underground. Okay. They have, like in every underground station, there's a labyrinth and it's a slightly different design. But how wonderful to be able to go to work, come home from work in the busyness on those platforms and just take a moment to centre.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I think wall labyrinths aren't used a lot, but I think they have a place too.
I think they do, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mount Carmel, who's there? Is that Nicole? Yeah. Unmute.
Unmute. Nearly there.
There we go. I'm here. Thanks. Actually, a question for Max and perhaps everyone else in the room. I came across an interesting guy in South Australia. He's his PhD in labyrinths and walking them, but he also describes a process where the people will walk them individually and then walk them together. And I just wondered, and I haven't got back to ask about his experience, but wonder if anyone in the group has ever done that, where they've actually walked with somebody else in the labyrinth and then shared their experience as, not one behind the other, but together, walking the same route in and out. I just wondered, Max, if you had an experience and how that played out.
When I ran, workshops and retreats, there is something dynamic about having 15, 20 people on a labyrinth, twisting and turning, and you notice them coming against you, or you have to go around them. Usually I say, look, there's no right or wrong way to do a labyrinth. Isn't that true? Like, there's no right or wrong, except for I say there's no pushing and no punching and no tripping. But there is something fun about, if you're getting a bit toey, because the person in front of you is so slow. You say, oh, there. What the question is, what is it asking of you? But yeah, it's interesting. When I run the retreats here at our place, they're already kind of, there's some group dynamics already have happened before that. So at our open day just last month, we had 25 people twisting and turning in the wild labyrinth. And again, you see a whole mix of emotions, but some of the insights they got from the other people by watching and observing how other people were walking or skipping or, cheating, as some said. Walking the labyrinth, yes, it opens up new possibilities. I've had less success in men sharing their intimates in a group because they don't know, like the group hasn't formed, and men are pretty, well, I'll speak for myself, I'm not so tuned into all my emotions and feelings, and when they come up, I'm going to have to sit back and try to deal with it. I am trained in spiritual direction and contemplation, so I should have some skills. I just know that a lot of the men don't have those skills, and they're just overcome by this feeling of, and it swamps them. So that's, I'm happy to try to practice more and do that. But anybody else?
Yes.
Yeah. My name's Kathy, and
Okay.
Max, I'm curious. You were talking about the very short window that you
Yes.
have with men. And, if you could comment about your experience of getting to actually engage with a labyrinth versus doing talking. I know you gave an example, but just perhaps a broader perspective.
Yeah. Look, because I'm a counsellor, therapist, I will do some talking first. And usually, I must admit, probably the first 10, 15, 20 minutes will be focused on the basic needs. I ask those 5 basic questions. It gives me an insight into their life, like what they do for fun, who they like to spend time with, things they're proud of, their survival instincts. A lot of their love and belonging with the men I worked with would have possibly only their kids in their life. And these are kids that they're not seeing. It gives me an idea of, their wider network, and also their almost, well, it's not depth, their shallowness of managing to get through, a day without people that care for them. So then, as a therapist, that's kind of my role, to make that connection into their love and belonging. So it's quite, and look, I am skilled, and I know that most of my workmates didn't have my skilling, and they couldn't do that. They would look at me and think, how do you do that? And some of that is the nineness, that nines get away with stuff. But yeah, I think I hone in on stuff that's really important, their treasure, and somewhere I treat them with enough respect that they feel safe enough to explore the next step. So, yeah, so Kath, did that kind of answer? Yep, okay. So it is personal connection in any therapy. Most of the research is saying that, look, for any therapy to work, it's the counsellor and the counselee's relationship. And Glasser would say that you get a window of about 3 to 5 minutes to establish that. And what's everyone's favourite topic? Themselves. And how often do you get to talk about yourself? Not often. Imagine if you come to an NGO where the government pays you, so you get a free service to talk about yourself. It's a win-win. Like, it is a pretty good, opportunity. So I know I'm in a unique and a spoilt kind of position to be able to do that. So, I do, I don't take that for granted. But I also know that I've had 40 years of practicing, and, I'm getting better at it. So yeah. How are we going, Joy? It's 10 past.
Yeah, another 5 minutes if anyone else has any other questions or.
Sure, Rose, you got a smile. Tell me more.
Yeah. Or we could just take an early minute if you wanted to. And if you're all happy. The next thing on the agenda is we've got Suzanne, who's going to be joining us from Broken Hill at 2:30, and she actually was somebody who helped build the Hurley Park Labyrinth right near Mount Carmel,
Nice.
a community labyrinth. So she'll talk about that, and also about what she's doing in Broken Hill, which is something else.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Rose, where you got unmuted?
Yes, hello.
Hello.
I was just enjoying it. I often enjoy walking with people, send them on the labyrinth to walk themselves, and then to walk it as a group afterwards. And it's really interesting because they've held space for each other as they've walked it.
Yes.
And then they walk it together, and it's like a flourishment, or everything coming together at the end. So I quite enjoy that side of things. But thank you for your lovely presentation.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. Hey, I did a workshop years ago, and after about 4 hours of doing stuff, I said, now I'm going to experiment with something new. And we all got ready to walk. We stood around the labyrinth, and then we would take turns of crossing over and then walking the path together. And I played the Proclaimers 500 miles. Now, there is something amazing about doom, 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 do, 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 do. And when I wake up, you know, I know where I'm going to be. And I would walk 500 miles. And there is just joy on everybody's face. The music is amazing. We're walking together and bang, we're off to a mission. You know, that was one of the funnest ways to finish a retreat workshop that I've had the joy of experiencing. So, so yeah, so thanks, Rose.
Well, there's, and another question which is not related to your talk is I'm not quite sure how to use music in the Labyrinth yet. And I think, you know, I've got quite a lot of Hildegard music and I should do it because
just practice
in the time of the Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And it's probably just not having experimented or tried the different kinds of music.
Yeah. The next one I want to do, and we're doing one tomorrow at this retreat, is to try the chicken dance, because I play a kazoo quite often, and I just think, wouldn't that be a fun thing to see if it works? You know, because there is something about joy that just loosens some of that stuff up, doesn't it? You know, and
Yes.
takes you to a new avenue that you didn't think you were going to get to. Today, just as a centering exercise before I left and came here, we got the people, and I just gave them a handheld labyrinth, and we got them to do, you know, just to focus on kind of, you know, what they've got to let go of, and, you know, what's something to hang on to. And again, you know, we only had some mystical Irishy kind of music at the background, but yeah, I'm not great with music, but I am fun at just trying to work out new ways to help people just explore. You know, is there a right or wrong way? Well, you know, I have yet to have anyone have a nasty, horrible experience with a labyrinth. Somehow it just does its magic, doesn't it? So, yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, thanks,
Yes.
Joy. It's about
thank
time.
you. Yes, it is. Yes, so let's give a Zoom thank you yes, to Max. Yeah, that was just lovely. Yeah, and you can hold hands if you want to on the either sides of your screen. I love that. Chicken dance. Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your conference.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful.
And happy labyrinth walking and skipping and
Yeah.
jumping. Yeah.
Yeah.